You're listening to Coaster-852, a Hong Kong podcast about all things coasters and theme parks. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coaster-852. And if you guys are wondering why am I talking to myself today, it's because that my co-host, HM, is not actually available now. So you're gonna have to listen to my solo voice for like this small bit. Recently I've been sort of not really doing much, just kind of going out a bit when the weather is better, and it's really good because now the restrictions in the UK, the restrictions have slowly been lifted. So in the future we could be looking at theme parks reopening and stuff like that. So plenty to look forward to in the spring or summertime, whatever you like to call it. But when it comes to talking about weather, how could we forget about our lovely guests joining us today, Logan and Mitch from Canada, running a podcast called Prairie Coasting. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good, HC. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Just as I just said, like just been quite quiet and peaceful, I suppose. Quite zen. That's how I like to call it.
Love it. Well, it is beautiful here in Toronto weather-wise. Oh, it's 4 degrees and sunny, but it's getting up to 14 degrees Celsius and sunny today. So I will be getting out, enjoying the sun. And I think, as you mentioned, all Canadians love to talk about the weather nonstop of how bad or how good it is. It is good. I'm glad I am on the good front today here in Southern Ontario.
Pretty similar to us, actually. Like, if you ask a British guy, or a British woman, the first thing you would talk about is like the weather, and it's actually not much different here in Coventry. So it's around, I think, let me see what the temperature is like. It is 6 to 12 degrees, so quite similar to Toronto, I'd say.
I'm wishing I didn't look at this weather. Now. It's going to be up to 11 a day, but this whole week's going to be back below zero with snow on 3 of the 5 days. So, oof.
That's not good to hear. But I mean, it's pretty Canadian, isn't it? Like pretty prairie weather out there. So
that's just what it is. One day you're breaking all sorts of records for being 17 degrees, like way above normal, and then the next day you're getting snowed on and it's like 20 below. But what can you do, eh?
Yeah, what can you do indeed? Like there's not much you could do about weather.
Yeah.
But us like British and Canadians all like talking about weather, so but we are not a weather podcast, so
No. Not yet. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, could be talking about clouds, very interesting. I don't know. But would you guys like to introduce a bit about your podcast?
Sure. I guess I could take the reins here. All right. So the podcast that we've got going over here is called Prairie Coasting. Essentially, the whole idea of it is it's like a fan's perspective, I'd say, on theme parks, amusement parks, roller coasters, rides, all that fun stuff. Because, while Mitch is an enthusiast, I'd call myself an enthusiast now, I guess, too. Not so much in the technical aspect for myself, at least, but it's a fandom, just appreciation for parks, kind of just discussing them, enjoying what we can, because I don't really get out to parks. Last time I've been to a park was 2019, and I haven't been on a new to me coaster since 2012. So that's kind of our whole spin on it, of, just people who don't exactly get out to a lot of the parks, and we just kind of make do with what we got here in the prairies. So I don't know, that's kind of the whole story behind that. You can find it on any of the major podcast streaming sites. So yeah, that's Prairie Coasting for you.
Actually, sounds pretty similar to what I started off to be. Like, I actually don't really go to much parks, and because in Hong Kong there isn't really that much parks, anyways. So it's just like I'm repeatedly getting the same creds over and over again. So I don't have a lot of cred, probably just like Logan.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wonder, like, what makes you want to start this podcast like Logan? Because I know it's a bit of an obscure occasion to some of our listeners that might not be familiar with the Canadian geography?
Yeah, so I've always liked listening to podcasts, and I've always kind of wanted to make one ever since, like, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago in high school. But I knew that that was something that I was never going to do until I was, like, properly in university and settled in and kind of more at least into the majority of my adult form and past the whole, like, prepubescent, high schooler drama and just, your stage that you're at in your life there, because we don't need that on the internet. We don't need Logan from high school on the internet. I wasn't a terrible kid, but it's not needed. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I just have always something I've been wanting to do. Kind of just chose to talk about this because I felt like, well, I have a relatively unique perspective, and I feel like I have a solid enough personality. I got it's good enough work ethic to keep it going every week. So I don't know. It's just something that I kind of enjoy. Editing's not, something I entirely love, but it can be kind of therapeutic in the sense it gives you something to control and, really just gives you something that you've been able to look back on like, oh, I accomplished this. I did something. So in that sense, it's cool to see like a back catalog build up. So I don't know. Those are a couple of the things that have been cool and keeping me going with it, I guess you could say.
I mean, sounds really good to me. Like, I guess you could also learn how to edit, which is something that not many people could brag about. Like, not many people, like, school or university don't really teach you that unless you're in, like, theater studies or theater management or something like that. So, sounds good to me. But this question is to you both. So, what are your favorite coasters or, like, attractions that you have been on?
No, I'm looking up. So I have a Google sheet that I'm going to pull up. So for some of my favorites, I was a Disney enthusiast. I don't know if Disney enthusiast is even a thing, but I was a Disney enthusiast before I was a coaster enthusiast. I got into Disney with went to Disney with my family since I was like a baby, literally at my second birthday at Disney World. So that is where I really got into things. So Disney was like my first love, and then I realized that there was a whole world of coasters beyond that. So in terms of like coasters, some of my favorites, I love Lightning Rod at Dollywood is my current number one. Mystic Timbers, the Great Coasters International wooden coaster at Kings Island, Sky Rush at Hershey Park, wearing my Hershey Park hoodie right now. Maverick at Cedar Point, Millennium Force at Cedar Point, Iron Rattler, Wonder Woman, Golden Lasso coaster, my hometown favorite of Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland, Pandemonium at Hershey Park again, and Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point are kind of my top coasters. So not really a theme. I don't know if I can point it out. I really like re-rideability on coasters. That's what I really enjoy about them. But there's not really a specific theme of like I want the more aggressive coasters. I want more of this. My coasters are kind of favorite are all over the place. But if we have any Disney fans, some of my favorites: Splash Mountain, obviously, my personal favorite. The Guardians of the Galaxy ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, Mystic Manor at Hong Kong Disney, one of my favorite Disney parks. Expedition Everest, Haunted Mansion, Ratatouille, the Incredicoaster, and the People Mover are some of all of my favorites. So that's kind of a general, again, not really a theme on Disney rides. I really like, it's just nostalgia really, and like a crazy theming like Mystic Manor. So not really a general theme of what I really like, but I very much like what I like. We've talked about on our show a lot of times, our rankings are very much not based on like stats and what everyone else likes, very much about our own experiences and our own personal things. And sometimes our opinions make the general coaster enthusiast community mad or whatever they feel like they need to be. So that's kind of a high level ranking of my favorites. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting list. I have to say that because very often I think like once you become an enthusiast, it's hard to appreciate rides as you did when you're more sort of towards the general public side. And I could hear that probably many people would be like, many entitled coaster enthusiasts be like, God, you didn't have like 10 RMCs on your list. your opinion is invalid. But in this show, I really like listening to diversities of like enjoy about rides like Mystic Timber or Splash Mountain or even Maverick. Like I mean, not there are some really good, really many people like rides. Like many Fuji's love rides, and but at the same time, it's a good mix with everything else. What about you, Logan?
So some of my favorite coasters, obviously Mindbender's my favorite. The one we got up here in the prairies, love that thing to death. Other rides, I like Lux Super Drop of Doom. That's probably my favorite drop ride. I love a good S&S tower, whether it's the double shot or whatever they call it, turbo drop. I think the ones that shoot you down.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. And then log flumes. Obviously, I love Splash Mountain. Honestly, just a good water ride. Whether it's a rapids ride, those ones are kind of fun to encounter and have kind of this weirdly personal experience with a bunch of random strangers in a tube. Like it's always a good time. And then I don't know, I really like the Knots log flumes, so a little bit of everything, kind of like Mitch hit on.
Yeah, looking at Mindbender, like it's been always on my bucket list because of how mad that ride is, and especially when I first became an enthusiast, it's like one of the first rides that
Yeah.
you look up and find for some obscure reasons. I don't know why, but it seems like it's a really popular kind of coaster that not many people get to ride. But Rapids Ride, is like you just said, like they are just so interactive and fun, and especially when everyone is able to have fun. That's the point of being in a theme park, I guess. But there's a pretty good themed rapids in Hong Kong Ocean Park as well. But guess what the name is? Have a guess.
River Rapids.
Close enough. The Rapids. So I would say it's a pretty original name, but it actually has quite a good theme. Like it's you I think you guys would love it. It's built by Intimate too. So
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah. Who names a roller coaster anyways? Like I'm sure there's like 1,000 coasters that called roller coaster or like
That's like in Roller Coaster Tycoon where it's like Rapids Ride 2 looks too intense for me, and it's like that's exactly what that name sounds like. Rapid, it's like the generic RCT2 name. It's like Rapids Ride 1 is too expensive for me. That they really were not did not pay a big creative budget to name that ride.
yeah, exactly. I mean, especially when it comes to like scenic railways as well. Let's call it scenic railway. But luckily, it's not the same with daily life, or else you would just call your dog. It's gonna sound weird.
So many are called that. Like it's actually crazy because I've been in Playland in Vancouver. It's not called roller coaster. It's just called coaster. It's coaster at Playland. I'm like ooh. And then in Mexico and Spain, there's a lot of coasters called Montaña Rusa, which the direct translation of that is Russian mountain. But that's actually their name for roller coasters, which is very weird. So because roller coasters originated from the old Russian snow mountains that came down. But it's funny how both in English and in French and in Spanish, they still have that name, but so many, so many coasters in Mexico are named Montaña Rusa, and didn't get creative with that one at all.
You know what? If I had a dog, I think I'd totally do that. Just like I'm not a millennial, but for like the Gen Z, just ironicness. Like that's what I think I'm gonna. No, even better yet, I'm gonna call the dog Cat, just because. Because why not? Can you imagine if they named coasters like that? You just. I don't even know. Sorry, that's a random little tangent I was about to go on there. It's early for me.
Love it.
Well, it exists. I mean, it exists in like Six Flags parks when they call it like Crazy Coaster, not a coaster. Like I don't know, Chaos. Is it Chaos? I don't know what they are called, but like basically the large and super loose wings, and they call them coasters as well. I think so. It's not a coaster. If you think that is a coaster, you're wrong. Don't just credit the horror like all the way. So
I just finished listening to your episode on what counts as a credit, and there were some very controversial opinions in there. But I agree that I don't think those Skyline Skywarps are credits. I just don't. And people do, like the one at Discovery Kingdom. People do. I don't personally consider it, but I have differing opinions on the powered coaster. But that's for another day.
If it rolls, if it coasts, and it's on a track, it counts for me. So anything that the GP could count as a coaster, confused with one, I'm good with. But I also don't count credits, so it's kind of ironic that I'd, call everything a coaster, but I also don't care what my number is.
Who cares? Who cares? Enthusiasts can be so GP sometimes.
I love that scene.
When you actually think about it, they actually be so GP. Like it's ironic, isn't it?
Oh, that is amazing! God. Oh my goodness!
But that's from like one of the coaster parody scenes. So I don't take full credit for this.
Okay. Well, still, I love it. That's good stuff. It's a good line.
Yeah, let's actually move on. we have been like off a bit of a tangent, but what do you enjoy most about theme parks? I suppose, like what is your best experience? I suppose.
Oh, sure. So at parks, I like just kind of like the feel of it, the atmosphere, the vibe, all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't even have to be on coasters or rides to be having fun. I love people watching. I love just taking pictures, basically just soaking in the atmosphere and the different experience, because it's not exactly something that we've got here. So it's always nice to be like, even if it's just Six Flags, I'm off in my own little world kind of idea. Like, to me, that can almost be as good as Disney sometimes.
Oof. I think Mitch is gonna probably disagree there.
No, I don't. I think the expectations are different for me personally. Like, it's like when I go to a Six Flags park, if you expect Disney level theming, you're going to be disappointed. So, like, I think people, like a lot of people who are Disney enthusiasts, they really like to crap on Six Flags. They're like, oh, Six Flags sucks. Six Flags this. It's like it's not even on the same playing field. Like, they're just not, in my opinion. So I think for me, I agree with Logan. I love people watching, but it really depends as well. I really, for all parks, no matter what, I love good landscaping. I love like having the park in good condition. Just being able to walk around and not like get lost and just enjoy being outside. It could be the smallest park in the world, or it could be the biggest, most beautiful park. But if the landscaping and like how the park is kept up, if it's not there for me, I mean, there is funny things about going to sketchy parks, like Coaster at Playland or Marineland and things like that. But there's only so much money I'll spend at a sketchy park. But I think on top of that, for me, just a lot of different experiences. I mean, like, I don't love like concrete style like fairs as much. It's just not my style. So I don't love like Playland. I don't mind things like traveling fairs. They have their place. They're fun. But like I said, I'd much prefer like a landscaped experience. I love good dining. We talked how much I love like good theme park food. I love being able to like sit down for a nice meal. No matter what, I've had some great meals, Cedar Fair parks or Disney or, well, not Universal, but and things like that. So it's not truly about the coasters for me. Like, I mean, I'm thinking think about Hong Kong Disney is one of my favorite Disney parks, and it has some of the least amount of attractions out of all any park in the Disney chain. Yet it's one of my favorites because of how amazingly they've kept it up and how beautiful the park setting is and how different some of the rides are. So I think expectation for me, landscaping, and just general park atmosphere, I'm happy about. But I think unless a park is truly making me upset, I can try to find ways to have a good time, no matter where I am.
That's so important, like people often just like complain about everything. You're not gonna enjoy a theme park, especially when you go into Six Flags having a wrong expectation. Like, oh, you expected Six Flags to really theme up their rides and things like that. Then like you're bound to disappointment. So I mean, it's really important to maintain your expectation, and I guess we would sort of talk about it later on in the episode because I'm not gonna review what we're talking about, but you'll see. And moving on, actually, I know you guys have different home parks, but should we hop on to Logan's home park first on Galaxyland?
Yeah, sure. So Galaxyland has been my home park. if you can even really call it a home park. Like, it's as close to a home park as I'm gonna get. The mall is still 6 hours away from me, pretty much, like a drive there, so it's quite the little hike to get out into that neck of the woods. I always have to make like a full-on trip of it, spend a few nights or something, so in that aspect, it's like very much an event. I know Mitch kind of grew up going on day trips and, overnighters to the mall and Galaxyland, so he knows a lot about this place. Honestly, probably more about the history and, well, at least being able to experience the history. I know my history quite well, I want to say, about good old Westminster Mall, but it's a fun little park. It's very tacky, stuck in the 90s, just all around cartoony, fun vibe. It's going to be interesting to see how all the Hasbro theming is going to affect the park, see if it gives off a different feel. I'm hoping it brings some kind of new life into the park with, some maybe updated paint schemes and just a little sprucing up the place, some of that tender love and care that they've been needing for a little while in some of the attractions, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, looking at some of the photos, it just looks like very cute. I really like how cute like the mascots are, and it just feels like quirky and sort of like you just said, stuck in the 90s, but in a good way. Because sometimes aging could be a bad thing. Like, just look at Marine World in Ocean Park. It's really outdated, and it looks like scene from one of those North Korean fun fairs. But let's not talk about that. It's honestly, I mean, Dragon looks cool. Like the paint job looked cool, although it's just been removed. But it's just not very well landscaped, I don't think. So I think that's something that Galaxyland is better, I guess, in terms of stylizing things and having tacky things.
Yeah, for sure. I think Wonderland, Mitch's home park. I'll let him get into that in a second here. I think I like the front entrance looking way, but other than that, Mitch, is there really any theming or landscaping, or what's the situation out there in Canada's Wonderland?
It's okay. The front entrance is horrible. It's absolutely horrendous. But once you go in the park onto International Street's quite lovely with Wonder Mountain and everything like that. It's just the problem is, like, when it was first opened, it was very well themed. Like, they had medieval fair, and like then they had like an 1898 land, and well, they had Frontier Canada plan. So Cedar Fair theming is very light comparatively. I like it a lot, but there's just Paramount unfortunately did a number on that park, especially if you turn left. So if you're looking at Wonder Mountain, if you go straight or if you go right, it's actually quite a pretty area, decent amount of theming, decent amount of landscaping. But if you go left, you go into the old Grand World Exposition area and the biggest culprit of the concrete area, which is Action Zone, which is just, it literally feels like a fair, like it does. And not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just a very different feel from International Street when you first get in. So where Behemoth is, like, there's just a lot of, like, it's just all concrete and a lot of kind of flat rides plopped around it. So not my favorite area, but I really like what they did with Frontier Canada in the back by Yukon Striker. There's a lot of, like, kind of woodsy, they put a lot of coniferous trees there, using my grade 8 science knowledge there for that. But so it feels very like woodsy, very like kind of like very like the path over behind Yukon where it goes towards Splashworks. It feels very kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's a very cool path, so I think they did a good job. And I still think Medieval Fair, where Leviathan is, actually did a good job, but not quite as tacky as Galaxyland, unfortunately. It's on a different level. I really hope that Cedar Fair does, as they do their different expansions, they do what they did with Cedar Point and kind of fix up the whole area. They did that with Yukon Striker, but I know with Cedar Point, they did that when they added Steel Vengeance. They did a whole, refresh of Frontier Town, and I really hope that comes to Canada's Wonderland, especially on the left side of the park, like Action Zone and Grand World Exposition. But still an amazing park, still the best park in Canada, in my opinion. But I loved, like Logan said, growing up, I still considered Galaxyland my home park. It was 3 hours away, but lots of day trips up there. You definitely know more about the park overall than I do, but I was just like, I actually went when things like the Drop of Doom and stuff like that was still there. But definitely, like, even now, you know way more about the park than I do. I've only been a couple times in the last couple years, but overall, a lot of weird, quirky parks up here, but I cannot wait for Canada's Wonderland to reopen because it's a 20-minute drive from me, and I'm just going to be like, every day. Like, as soon as work's done, I'm driving up there and riding Yukon Striker. So, yeah, it's very high-level ramble. I'm sorry I rambled on about Canada's Wonderland.
Oh, love it. I just love how you talk about the frontier. Is it Frontier Canada area, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just think it looks so well landscaped, and what's not better than spending a day like after work at a theme park. I just really enjoy that. I actually never experienced that. Like, never went to a park after I sort of left school. But yeah, I just think it's such located in such a convenient place to get to, and it's just really good. Like the dynamics and that you can have with a park that is close to the city. So I'm really kind of jealous that you have like Leviathan and Behemoth in like the same park, and
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
not many hypercoasters like close to where I live. So I'm definitely jealous.
No, we're very spoiled here because we have two coasters that go above 200 feet, both Yukon and Behemoth, and one that goes above 300. And so that I'm very lucky about. But one thing I love about Canada's Wonderland is there's 4 amazing coasters in my opinion, and 12 or 11 or 12 absolutely horrible coasters. And it's just kind of I love that. It's so funny. It adds a lot of character to the park, but it's just so funny that like they have 4 standout, and then they have like the rest of them. I'm like, I've ridden them once. I probably won't ever ride them again. So it's very top heavy park. One thing I think they do need more of is like a good dark ride because Wonder Mountain's Guardian. So if they have a good and Boo Blaster is okay, but we've talked as I said on my what I talked about Disney. I would love a great like solid boat ride. Like honestly, just a boat ride, like a themed boat ride or something like that would just really add a lot to the park. And would really just add a huge segment that they're missing of just like a solid, like top quality dark ride. They could throw it in with a water ride or whatever they need to do, but those top four coasters are fantastic.
Yeah, interesting. Because I think it's funny how they like you just said, like they kind of filled up the gap with like filler coasters. They have way too much like filler coasters rather than standout attractions. But I guess this can be like you could say that this doesn't really matter as much because to me it just seems like a flat ride paradise. Like I really
It is.
flat rides Wonderland as I call it, but I just find like some of the flat rides really weird. I think what is the one with like I don't know really weird like it's like one of those really rare RCT free sort of type attractions with like the I don't know how to describe it.
Oh yes, Sledgehammer is what it's called.
Sledgehammer, yeah, Logan's right.
I think it's called a Hoos Mega Jump. Turbo Jump? Something along the lines of that, I'm pretty sure, is what the actual manufacturer name is. I might have gotten the manufacturer wrong, but something along the lines of that, because you're out in those weird little claws spinning around and it's bouncing you up and down, and it's wild. Mitch, you definitely got to try and get on that one sometime this summer.
I was about to say I am the worst Canada's Wonderland fan because when I moved here in 2019. So I actually have never had a season with Canada's Wonderland open, which means I've actually never ridden a flat ride at Canada's Wonderland. I've never ridden any of them. I've only ever ridden the coasters at Canada's Wonderland, and that's it. So I haven't ridden Sledgehammer or Lumberjack, whatever that is. I haven't ridden any of them. I've ridden Boo Blasters, but at Kings Island, not at Canada's Wonderland. So I am not a big flat ride fan, especially if I can get motion sick from it. Like I'm like, so I do want to try Sledgehammer, but it is a flat ride paradise, but I have not taken advantage of that. So once I finish kind of working my way through the coasters and getting a good ride on them, I'll probably have a day where I just take a bunch of anti-sickness medicine and just ride flat rides like non. I'll just get them all out of the way because I am not a good Canada's Wonderland fan for not having ridden all of those. Like I don't even know the names of most of them. So Logan, you know way more about that than I do. I am very not up on that front.
It's all good.
I mean, it's fine though. Like, I mean, you got like what? You got like 17 coasters. So I mean, I mean, why bother getting on flat rides if like you really don't really like it? So it sucks really. Like sometimes when you get on flat ride and then you get sick, that's not a good thing. Like you see people
Exactly.
like throwing up and stuff. It's not really good.
No, not at all. And so my thing is like, and I usually take a gravel the night before, so like I can sleep and all that stuff. And then I always bring ginger chews or like little ginger things in the park. And that helps a lot with any of that. So actually, it's been pretty good. It's been very under control lately, but there's been a couple rides. I was just talking on. It was on the Coaster Cuzzies. They were having their morning discussion about dark rides, and they were talking about Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, which is at Hollywood, Orlando, Japan as well, and it's such a cool immersive ride. But holy man, is that like a motion sickness machine? That thing is so like both me and my friend came off it, and we were just like we couldn't even walk straight. We're like, what the crap? So it's a great ride, but definitely got to watch that the screens and the motion and all that stuff for sure.
For sure. I remember going on last year. No, actually last year to Universal Studios Japan and got on it, and I was stunned, even though the commentary is in Japanese, like because like how well themed and how good the ride is. But at the same time, my parents is just like not impressed though, because they were like, "What the hell is going on?" Like with the robo arm, like because like practically we just feel like that we are thrown back and forth, and in all sort of weird orientations, and it isn't for everyone, I guess. So I mean, I could totally feel that, and I actually feel physically drained after that. So, but I feel even more physically drained after that because I got on Flying Dinosaur, the best ever B&M flyer. Like, even though I have only been on one, but I think I'm really lucky to have experienced that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Looks amazing, but does not look like a ride where it looks like a ride that'll take it out of you. You gotta. It's intense. So those two rides back to back. Oh, that's a lot of intensity.
Yeah, I think Logan would like it though, because he likes Mindbender. So I mean, it's like one of the most forceful machines.
And Tatsu. You like Tatsu, Logan, so I think you'd love Flying Dinosaur.
Yeah, I think it'd be definitely a toss-up between which one I like more. I definitely would have to ride it to be able to tell for sure. Tatsu might get the slight edge, but I know that Flying Dinosaur is also huge, so who knows? Maybe someday I'll get there and be able to tell you for sure.
Yeah, there's also one thing that you can't really lap that thing because the queues are super long, and even if you get fast pass, you still have to skip like. You can only skip it once, and so it's kind of stupid. But I mean that's a good thing because it wouldn't drain you out for the rest of the day. So
yeah,
that's the good thing. But I really wished I got like more rides on it. I only got 2 rides because I had the express pass one time, and also had gone into the single rider line, which is slightly shorter than the regular line. But it's kind of stupid because they only let one person on each. When they mean single rider, they legit mean single rider. The queue was moving painfully slow. It was one of the worst experience, I guess, waiting in the queue.
I've heard that goes so slow, like because I know in single rider lines in the U.S. and even in Canada, they're very much just like if there's a couple rows they gotta fill, they'll just put in like 2 or 3 single riders at once, so it goes pretty fast. But I've seen videos of people at Flying Dinosaur, and it literally they will go through the whole regular line as far as they can yell to try and fill up the line, and then so there might not. It's like for the Flying Dinosaur, they might only do one person for every like 2 or 3 trains. Like it just looks so slow, which I mean, yay, but also like painful. So
yeah, I mean it's one of the best parks for sure. But the operations, let's not talk about that. The operations are terrible.
It's Universal. They suck overall. So
Yeah.
sorry, Universal fans. Sorry.
Oh no. Universal fanboys or fangirls are probably gonna hate this episode. Like they're gonna switch off right now. Like we're gonna see a huge drop off right now on engagement and interaction.
Just do a disclaimer on screen and say, if you are a Universal fan, skip to this time period so you can
Yeah.
miss all that. Anyways, totally an aside. That was not about Wonderland at all. But anyways, yes, flat rides make me ill, so I haven't been on them as much. But Galaxyland was my old home park, and it was just so cute, and I loved being able to go there just for the day or an overnight, like Logan said. But there's so much to do in the mall as well. That's why I think I like Wonderland better, but like as an overall kind of like trip, I feel like people have a better time at the mall because you can stay on site and do water park, theme park, go karts, mini golf, sea life caverns, like whole dining and entertainment district and that kind of thing, plus everything the city of Edmonton has to offer, which is a lot as Alberta's largest city. So I think it gives the edge as like kind of a cool destination, whereas Canada's Wonderland is like one part of a very cool city, Toronto. But it's just a more of an overarching thing. So different experiences, different trips, but both are like I would say they're two of my favorite parks I've ever been to for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that they have a sea life. Is it like a sea life center?
Yeah, like a full aquarium. They have sea lions, they have penguins, they have like all like bunch of fish and everything like that. It's really
Sharks, stingrays, they got a bunch of reptiles. They got a little reptile house, they got snapping turtles. Yeah, they got a lot of stuff downstairs.
Wow, great. That's really cool. I never knew that.
there's so much to do in that mall. Yeah, there is, and there's like a mall pass or whatever. Usually, all the attractions are really expensive individually, but you get the mall pass that I've actually never gotten it before. Only Logan told me about it, and you can get access to all of those places.
Yeah, the mall has it. It's called a multi-play pass. So essentially what it sets up is you get, free admission to everything, one round at each mini golf course a day. You also get an hour of bowling or a pool at the rec room upstairs of your choice. Gives you discounts on skate rentals for the Ice Palace, the hockey rink that they have in the middle of the mall. What else? Get discounts on like cabanas and all that fun stuff. You get into the aquariums. You can go to one sea lion show every day. Basically, everything the mall has to offer, you get for free, or if it's like an upcharge, it's at a heavily discounted rate.
That's good to know for those listeners that might be planning a trip to Canada sometime. But it's a bit of a hard place to get to. But yeah, hopefully someday I would get to ride Mindbender myself. But moving on, should we talk about a bit about food? I know both of you would be most interested about the food topic as you guys talk about it quite a lot on your podcast.
Always want to talk about food constantly. Really.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking what I'm going to get for lunch right before I go to work. I'm thinking Wendy's, but we'll see.
Ooh, good old Wendy's.
But yes, food. Mitch, I'll let you get into Wonderland and your home park's food before we stumble across kind of maybe, I don't know, a couple of our favorite foods.
Well, Wonderland's food is not the best. That is unfortunately not something that Cedar Fair has really invested in. Not until I would say 2019. The problem is I'm not going to go on my regular rant about it, but they just don't. It's the busiest. It's the busiest seasonal theme park in all of North America. So it's like very busy, busier than Cedar Point, busier than any of the Six Flags. So it gets a lot of people. I mean, they're within a 3-hour drive of Wonderland. There's 10 million people. So we're not talking. This is the most this is by far the most dense part of Canada. So there's a lot of people that come through it, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of high capacity food areas in there. There's not a lot of like Disney does such a good job of you can do mobile order or you order at a kiosk and they call your name later and it's like you just cycle people through. They don't have very few of those besides a couple chain ones like Pizza. They only have a couple of those and their operations are so slow. So food operations at a park are a huge thing for me. I'm vegetarian / on my way to vegan. So that is also a big thing for me, is like lots of options. I don't want to feel disgusting at a park. I don't, as much as I love treats and fun things, like I love a good ice cream every once in a while. Like if I feel disgusting at a park, I'm walking around, it's all sloshing in my stomach. I'm not here for that. Like so Canada's Wonderland unfortunately has a lot of improvements to do with that. My favorite non-Disney park food I think I've ever had is probably Hershey Park. I've talked about it before. People always crap on the food at Hershey Park, but what I love about it is there's just so many not bad options for you. They have like a vegan taco station. I was just so here for it because it's filling enough and it also has like a bunch of veggies. So it's like perfectly creeping that line between filling but not disgusting. So that's my very short food rant, because I could go on and on and on about the Canada's Wonderland food, but I have done that too much. I've given them too much airtime. Until they start improving it, my rants are, I'm dialing them down.
It's not really a bad thing when you have too much airtime on a coaster.
Exactly.
But not at all. Not at all. Very interesting indeed. But I think you'll be fine if you ever came to Ocean Park. There is some there's a halal approved restaurant as well. So there's like plenty of vegetarian options available. Like I think Ocean Park is one of the better parks with food.
Cool. Well, Hong Kong Disney was amazing. Like Disney parks are all except for Tokyo Disney, which their food is horrible. The Hong Kong Disney is probably my Hong Kong Disney, besides California Adventure, probably, or Disneyland, is probably my favorite food place. The food at Hong Kong Disney was absolutely spectacular. There was so many options. Like everywhere had veg, because I guess it's just a crossroads of the world, right? Like they had to have so many different types of food, and I had like this like big curry platter at right beside Manor, and I was just I had naan, I had dal, I was just living my life. I felt so good after that. So I'm a big fan of Hong Kong Disney. I am a Hong Kong Disney. What do the kids call it these days? I'm a fan, or I don't know. There's
Disney
a word
fan. I don't know.
Yeah,
Enthusiast.
yeah, and I'm a Hong Kong enthusiast of Disneyland, and so I can imagine. I actually ate really well in Hong Kong overall, so I'm not surprised that Ocean Park would have a lot of options for me, because Hong Kong had some. It's probably one of my favorite food cities in the entire world.
Wow, big statement there. Big statement. If only everything is just as good as Hong Kong's food, then there wouldn't be that much trouble in Hong Kong about like politics and things like that. And we wish. I don't want to get in politics too much here, but let's just say that the administration isn't very good. So
No.
how about you, Logan? Do you generally like eat in park if you visit Galaxyland, or do you usually eat at like the neighboring restaurants in the mall?
So Galaxyland, fun fact, technically has the food court right outside the mall listed on their park map, and it is called Gourmet World. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, they updated that like, I don't know, a few years ago when they remodeled the park maps and whatnot. But yeah, really anywhere to eat in the mall is the same as like eating at the restaurant in the park, because you can get from one end to the other side of the mall in, I don't know, 10 minutes tops, I'd say is probably the longest it would take. So yeah, you got so many different things to choose from. I think there's just under 100 different options in the mall. There's like, I think the number was like 25 pubs and restaurants. You had 50 plus fast food chains, a lot of different cafe spots to go into. So really, like, there will be an option for anybody out there. Doesn't matter your dietary needs, doesn't matter, any of your cultural stuff. There's just something for everybody there. And it's really cool because they, while you also have your typical fast food chains and whatnot, you also have so many like local places. So I know there's this really cool Korean street food place they brought in a few years ago, and I just absolutely love it. Like, it's just something completely different. But then of course, like any mall, you have your typical like Chinese food assembly line, essentially, where you slop a little bit into each thing, pay for like 4 items, or you got your Subways, your McDonald's. So I don't know, a little bit of everything. I like to just, do that when I'm at the mall. Take some time to maybe grab like a cinnamon bun and eat it on the lake kind of idea. But when I'm in a more typical amusement park, I normally like to try and pack a lunch, like make a couple sandwiches and bring them in if I can. If not, then I'll generally leave the parks anyway for like, I don't know, mid-afternoon until evening kind of idea. because I like to really space it out and take my time at parks. So in doing that, I'm able to get away from the parks and keep it fresh and exciting while also being able to check out some local areas. Like there's a really cool fish taco place on a pier down in California that was like 15-minute drive from Disney last time we were there. And I don't know, I like checking out that stuff.
Well, that's really cool. Food is something that I really like too, and I just think it's cool to smuggle in food, I suppose, into parks. Not that we encourage it, but it's a good way to save up money if you can. So not that we encourage anyone to do so, but hey, the option is there, so why not take advantage of it? But yeah, what do you guys think for improving the experience in general for your home parks? What would you change if you were in charge? Like, what changes would you guys make?
All right, let's do it. Well, Canada's Wonderland, I briefly just touched on it. I think adding more high capacity food places, adding a or adding like it's like a fast casual where you order at a counter and then you go bring your number to a table and someone brings it. Just a little bit something that you can sit down in air conditioning for a little bit, but it's still a high turnover rate. Just anything that kind of gets people through. Honestly, I think getting the operations down first, like getting the operations first and then focusing on the quality and diversity of food later is probably best. I think that's a big thing. I think everything about the left side of the park probably needs to be fixed. Like the whole action zone and the Grand World Exposition area needs to be completely like redone, like new coats of paint. Behemoth desperately needs a paint job, like desperately, and just kind of getting that whole area up to par with just even the Cedar Point or Kings Island. When you walk through Kings Island, you just feel like it's been well taken care of, and the staff actually really do care about this place. Whereas Canada's Wonderland, it's a mix, I would say. If they ever do remove flight decks / time warp, I think that'd be a fantastic opportunity to completely redo that whole area. It doesn't have to be major theming, just some new, if they want to keep that Grand World Exposition theme of where, very like steampunky, if they want to keep that, great. If not, something else would be great, even just something light. I would say those are the two things I really need to do. I think the back area of the park is fine. Frontier Canada is okay. All the kids' areas are fine. They're just kind of off in their own little worlds. And Medieval Fair, I even think is actually totally fine for what it is. I think maybe in 10 years that would be a focus, just to give it a new coat of paint, maybe give new things. But right now, I think the left area of the park, Action Zone, and that would just need desperately. And I think Action Zone would be perfect to either revamp Backlot Express, which is their like food place, or add a food place in Frontier Canada. Just a big, with high turnover, get lots of people through food place, just to kind of get the lines down elsewhere. So I think those are the two main things. I am not very picky on coasters right now because, like, if they do get rid of Flight Deck and Time Warp and put something in, it's going to be something high capacity and great, like a B&M Invert or Flyer or Wing or a launch coaster of some kind. It would be like a high capacity ride. So I'm not too concerned about that, but I'm definitely more concerned about just the overall aesthetic and operations side of it, which is probably their next focus for sure.
Yeah, quite good thing, I think, especially when small things like food and maybe like not having like concrete in the action zone area. That's what makes experience better. When people don't really mention about it, I think it's underrated in my opinion. When people don't really consider that when they are going to parks, but I think it's really important. What about you, Logan? Would you add any attractions or how would you improve the experience?
It's kind of hard to say with Galaxyland because it's been very stagnant in really all like the 90s into the early 2000s. They added the spinning coaster Galaxy Orbiter, Gerstlauer's, I don't know, one of their first spinning coasters, Canada's first spinning coaster. So that was really good that they made a nice, unique layout for the park and made it fit in well. And then even after that, nothing much happened. But recently they added a couple new flat rides into the park and kind of rezoned everything just because like the casino upstairs expanded, and in doing so they had to take out a ride and shuffle some things around. So I don't know what the number exactly was. I want to say like 2 million ish, but I don't know for sure. But essentially they were able to use that money to buy a couple of new really good high capacity modern flat rides. So The attractions wise, I've been all right lately. I think we'll be good for another, like, the better part of this next decade. I would love to see like an El Loco or like a Sandy's Blasting kind of coaster in the corner of the park where they have the elevated roof where they used to utilize really well with rides, but right now we just got a tiny little pirate ship that has no interaction with the structure up top. So that's like the big pipe dream for attractions wise. Do I see that happening? No, not at all. Especially not for a long time, because Alberta and really just Canadians in general are not huge on theme parks. But I think the biggest thing they need is to just bring back life into the place. And I think they're taking the right steps in doing so with their Hasbro transformation. While you might lose a little bit of that classic Galaxyland feel, I think having those IPs there will really attract like moms and their kids, and hopefully getting that kind of elementary school clientele in there on weekends and whatnot to hopefully bump up capacity and, you know, just bring some more life back into this place, because food's great. You're in a mall. The place is looking solid. It's got a good lineup. It's just needs some life back in it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I guess it's gonna attract those of the audience, and I think the park definitely looks good on the future, even though they didn't really need to add a lot of attractions, I don't think. So that's fair enough.
Yep.
Alright, guys, this is the end of part 1. So for the second part, which will be coming soon, will be about the main discussion where we discuss about whether stats make or break a coaster. So stay tuned and see you in part 2. Bye.